Hello, everyone, and welcome to Autism Stories, where we connect you with amazing people that help teens and adults with autism become more independent and successful. I'm your host, Doug Bletcher, the founder of Autism Personal Coach. Plato once said that lack of activity can destroy the good condition in just about every human being, while movement and physical exercise can save and preserve it. On this episode, we talk with Tracey Cohen about how running can have a profoundly positive impact on the lives of autistic people in so many different ways. Tracey is an experienced ultramarathoner, author, and speaker, and has completed in thousands of races around the world. Tracey was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome at the age of 39 and speaks regularly about autism to school groups and at conferences. She is the author of 6-word lessons on female Asperger's syndrome, as well as 6-word lessons on the sport of running. We hope you enjoyed today's conversation. Tracey, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for your interest.
Now, you were diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome. Now, so often what I see is females get a late diagnosis in life because they present differently than males. Do you think that contributed to your diagnosis later in life?
I absolutely do. That as well as the fact that 39 years ago there wasn't nearly as much awareness and information out there. It's definitely still lacking, especially for females. But I do. My mother pretty much always felt that something wasn't right. Children are different, and so I was not only different than my sister, but there were just a lot of things that, kind of mother's instinct and that didn't add up, and, the doctors would tell her that I was, either a bad kid or spoiled, she's a bad mom, as a brat. They also chalked a lot of it up to maturity, and so I definitely do.
You're the author of 2 books, and one of the books is called 6-Word Lessons on Female Asperger's Syndrome, 100 Lessons to Understand and Support Girls and Women with Asperger's. What do you wish people understood about females with Asperger's?
A lot of things, but one of the things is that, I certainly can't speak for, all females on the spectrum, but a lot of us, including very much myself, are pleasers. Even though I definitely, have my opinions and my stubbornness and can be very, very rigid, kind of all the traits that go along with autism, Asperger's. I was still always trying to please and trying to, not be an issue and move forward. And a lot of times when, females are, and don't get me wrong, we are competent. All people with autism have competencies, but, some females are we can be more expressive, and because we want to please and we are trying so hard, we can make our achievements, appear somewhat effortless. And people don't understand the difficulty level that it takes, and just how hard we're working, not only to achieve things and get things done, but also I know that I spend my days trying to make other people more comfortable. I'm that typical, square peg trying to fit into a round hole. And so, I've certainly, even people who know I have Asperger's, autism, same thing, say, well, they'll be talking to me about it, maybe talking to me about, their child or their friend's son or daughter, or son, I should say, and, they'll say, well, you know how much easier it is for females, or you're less affected, and, if they only knew how just even that conversation,
Mm-hmm.
is very difficult, and, I pretty, I use everything I have to get through every day, and pretty much fall apart at the end of every day. Some days are a little easier, but there's not a day that I can say is just easy and effortless.
You and I share a passion in common, and that's running. I've run 8 marathons, and just 8 marathons. And I say only because you are an experienced ultra marathon runner and have competed in 100-mile races. So where does your story with running begin?
First of all, I wouldn't ever, say it's correct for anybody to talk about their running and say they've only done, because, it doesn't matter, how much you do, how far you go. It's all good, and I think it's really more about how you run the race and, not how far you go. But anyway, my story began when I was around 11 years old. I was institutionalized, and I've always been a very active person. Loved the outdoors, loved to move, and it was pretty harsh there. And most of the staff who worked with the kids who were there, they were just pretty harsh and strict, and not especially kind or understanding. And there was one person who kind of recognized my distress and my desire and need to move and be outside. And she was a runner, and I think she even ran marathons. And one day she asked me if I wanted to go for a run. I'd always competed in sports, and baseball, softball, basketball, growing up, but I really didn't know what going for a run meant. But I just knew it was moving and outside. And it's funny because I really don't know how far we went. It couldn't have been very far, but I just remember it was, quickly she was so far ahead of me. And, I remember my lungs were burning, and, it was hard, but I absolutely loved it. I felt free. I loved the movement. It was peaceful. It was quiet. And I didn't get to, she left me just wanting more and more. And I didn't have the opportunity to run there a whole lot, but, from time to time she'd take me out. And I never, I certainly never forgot that. And I eventually, once I eventually got out and made it to high school, I had one, I had 2 track seasons and 1 cross-country season, and the assistant coach of my cross-country team, she ran marathons. And, it sounded really interesting and neat to me, and I wanted to do one. But my coach threatened to take me off the team if I did it during the season, so I waited till I graduated, and that fall, I ran my first marathon. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's kind of my story.
And
never looked back.
and thinking about that first marathon and beyond, what have you learned from those experiences?
Well, one, I've learned that I absolutely I love to run. I've learned that to keep an open mind. I certainly never intended to run, beyond a marathon or, especially a 100-mile race. When running as much as I do in a lot of different races and meeting a lot of different people started to, see me at the same events, and they would tell me, oh, you have to run this 50-mile or this 50K, or, then I learned about the 100-mile races, and I just simply never had any interest or desire. And I don't know, one day it just kind of sounded like a good idea, and it was, it was somewhat terrifying. I wasn't sure if I could do it, but, that's kind of been the story of my life, taking on, challenges that are just hard, and I'm not really sure if I can manage. And there's running for me is very much like life. There's a lot of hard to it, but the achievements and the enjoyment that you get out from pushing and setting goals and trying to push past what seem to be your limitations keep life interesting and make it worthwhile, and are much better than the alternative.
Mm-hmm. Now, your second book that you wrote is about running and is titled 6-Word Lessons on the Sport of Running, 100 Lessons to Enjoy Running for a Lifetime. Now, on the front cover of the book, there's a quote from one of the legends of running in the United States, Bill Rogers. He said that your book is essential for all who don't believe in themselves and never thought they were athletes. I must say I am really jealous because I'd love to speak with Bill Rogers and for him to endorse anything I ever do in life. I do love this quote, though, because I think we all have the ability to be athletes. In particular, running can be an awesome sport for those with Asperger's. What part of running do you feel play into the strength of a person on the autism spectrum?
A lot of things. Again, we're all different. First, I just a side note that when Bill Rogers agreed to read my book and possibly endorsed it, I was grateful, but I was also really nervous that he wouldn't like it. And when he got back to me and I saw that quote, my emotions come out at the wrong time, but I actually, that he hit it right there, and I actually cried when I read it. I was so happy. But in terms of strength, a lot of people on the spectrum we're very, very focused, and being single-minded and focused on one thing is a strength, as opposed to multitasking, which is incredibly difficult, and I know is pretty much the key to success in most areas of life. But for running, it's best to be pretty focused, and that I would say is a strength. Also, while it can be a team sport, even within a team. I mean, in relays, you're working with your teammates, but still that running portion, even if you're in a relay and handing off, that's very individual, and I know for me, I work best when doing things on my own as opposed to a lot of interaction. The other part of it for me is, it's running to become, it's much more known, and there are a lot more people running back than when I started, and the sport has taken on an even greater social aspect. But again, there are certainly some people who, go to run a race and kind of, just use it. They run together, they chat while they run, but it's also accepted to just go run and not so much be talking. And so, not that I don't enjoy talking to people, but it gets very overwhelming very quickly, and where I can, run for hours and hours, my endurance for talking is way less. And so, a little bit of talking at the beginning and a little bit of talking at the end, that certainly works in my favor. And I know there are some people, now on the spectrum who don't, struggle with the social as much as perhaps I do, but some do, and so that can also be a strength.
So I read where you wrote something about running that I really loved, and where you talked about how running has allowed you to have experiences on challenges on surfaces and venues you likely otherwise would never have had the notion or the courage to explore. Can you explain by what you meant by this?
Yeah, I could go on and on. I have been very blessed to have a lot of people just come into my life and be very, very kind. I have a friend who I've known for years now. Her name is Ellen, and she's very special to me. And she early on offered for now. I had been on a team in high school, but she gave me the opportunity to be on a team as an adult. And we took trips to all kinds of places as a team. In addition, she just became a good friend, and her and her husband had a plane, and they were just very kind and included me on so many of their trips. We went to Kentucky one time, and we ran a 10K. It was entirely in a cave. I never would have known that would have existed. I've run on mountains. I've run. I never would have thought to run through snowstorms or or rainstorms, and just the pleasure you can get out of it. When I was in the Peace Corps, people quickly understood that I liked to run, and even though most thought it was strange, there were some who just accepted it. And my supervisor, I was in Namibia, which is in Africa, and just north of South Africa. And my supervisor had a friend, and who I guess lived in South Africa, and there's a 56-kilometer race over there called Two Oceans, and it's called kind of the most beautiful marathon in the world. And they're like, oh, well, you should go do that. And for me, even though it's change and it's difficult and it's challenge, I love to see new places, and especially if it has to do with running. And the short of it, I was in. I took a 23-hour bus ride from Namibia to Cape Town, and I ran that 56-kilometer race, and it was just amazing. We climbed up all of, for lack of a better word, mountains, and I saw things that were just absolutely breathtaking. And had I not been a runner, I probably never would have made it over to South Africa and Cape Town and seeing some of the things that I did. And while that might seem minute in the whole scheme of life, it's just kind of a major thing for me, and a building block, and just your enjoyment.
Yeah, it's that must have been an awesome opportunity, it sounds like.
Yeah, And I mean, I could go on. There are all kinds of, places I've been to, from, little bigger towns, seeing different states, to little towns I live in Michigan, and little towns in Michigan that I never would have thought to go to. But there is a race, and, the people that you meet, the friends I've made, whether acquaintances for the day or, who turn up later in your life, or, and just seeing a new part of the state, new experience. It's, and talking to people, you just learn so many things, and it's just been a great side running. Yeah, just enjoying the outdoors, seeing some of the world, and really meeting some wonderful people.
One of the aspects of running I love are the races, and being at the starting line of the race is a very exciting moment for me. But at the same time, I can imagine for people with Asperger's or autism, that can be a very overwhelming place where you can have quite a bit of large numbers of people gathered in one particular area. What has that experience been for you?
Yeah, we differ very much on that part, where races get bigger, or at least some of the races get bigger and bigger, and exactly the starting lines are very chaotic and loud and noisy and crowded. That for me is far from the most exciting, rewarding part. Not that I don't like people or want to talk to people or want people to be engaged in the sport or enjoy their race. It's just very purely overwhelming, and people on the spectrum, myself included, have a lot of sensory issues, and for me, sound is one of them. I hear things probably 10 times as loud as most, and the louder the starting line, the more it rattled me, and it's just very. The starting line is a very difficult place. I'm always itching to, besides just for racing purposes, itching to get off the line, but to kind of find my own spot on the course where I can just kind of run my own race and be away from some of the noise of, not only the start line, but people just don't realize how noisy the world actually is.
Yeah, and have you found any strategies for yourself to make that starting line a little bit less overwhelming for you?
I can't really say that I have. I don't. I guess one thing that I do is some people line up very far in advance, and I know that this is helpful for race directors, and so I apologize to each and every one, but I'm one of the people who kind of duck in at the very last minute, where I feel safe enough to get a spot but not be there so long, to avoid just some of that noise and overwhelming feel. And when I call it noise, I know it's excitement and it's jubilant, and I'm not criticizing that. It's just, for me, it has the opposite effect.
Yeah, there definitely is a lot of noise and a lot of chatter from people at the starting line, so it's very easy to see where that could be overwhelming. You're in a crowd of people. Now, I also read about something you wrote about running, where you talked about having unforeseen personal and professional opportunities and invaluable connections through the sport of running. I think running can be such a great place to develop communities, so I was really glad to read that. What has been your experience socially in terms of developing community through running?
Yeah, absolutely. Very much like not to repeat myself, but like I said, the friendship I've made, the teams that I've been fortunate enough to be a part of, in terms of, professionally, it's kind of been allowed me to have some job opportunities. I worked for a specially running retailer for over 12 years, and I had the opportunity to share running in the form of teaching some classes and helping runners with injuries and find strategies to for success in their own writing. It's allowed me to, how I got into writing it, somewhat of a long story. But there too, it's allowed me to write for a number of different organizations that I never would have dreamed, and that's how I got connected with Bill Rogers, again with the president of a track club, who the president is friends with Bill Rogers, and he gave me the opportunity, and from there he was kind enough to let me contact him again. So it's just, again, starting with one connection and having some people just be kind and overlooked a lot of, what comes off as, strange or inappropriate to some, and just be accepting and give me a chance. And, I guess all about trying to find the good in others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it sounds like following your passion has, let open doors that you never would have thought were possible.
Absolutely. I certainly never planned on writing a book, let alone two. My original intention was to help even one person, and while it's certainly no bestseller, the number of people who have purchased my book and given me positive feedback and let me know what it's meant to them and how it's helped them has just been extremely rewarding and validating, and just more than is more than worth all of the hard and kind of bearing my my ugly blemishes, and I've just even though I don't do it in big ways, I've always really just wanted to please and help people, and to know that I'm able to do that even in a small way means a lot.
Well, you definitely are helping people. And Tracey, thanks so much for joining us today. It was great to talk with you.
Thank you. It was great to talk with you too, and thank you for all you do for people on the spectrum and their families.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. Anytime I get to talk about two of my passions, supporting autistic people as well as running, I absolutely love it. So thanks so much to Tracey for allowing me to have that conversation. Did you know that Autism Personal Coach saves autistic people from feeling alone and being isolated? So often, autistic teens and adults struggle with anxiety and as a result don't have success in their lives. Autism Personal Coach is a unique service in that we help autistic people by working on meaningful, individualized goals in the setting in which they'll be used, so anxiety is greatly reduced, and as a result, they can become more independent and successful. To get an autism coach for a loved one or yourself, it's very easy. All you have to do is email autismpersonalcoach@yahoo.com or call 216-336-5889 and request a coach today. On next week's episode of Autism Stories, we will continue our conversation on the benefits of running for autistic people with occupational therapist David Weiss. Talk to you then.
Conversation issues, keeping it short, even with practice, we still struggle.